Welcome back. In part 2 of my interview with David and Chris, we talk about who popped the question and the wedding day itself. Enjoy.
Even more than we anticipated.
Who popped the question?
What a great question that you should ask that. Yeah, and
A few times.
yeah, one of the things that we teased each other about because we'd been together for so long, and we talked about getting married, and Chris actually is the one who said, do you want to get married in South Africa? And I said, yeah, but somebody has to ask somebody else, because I know we've been together, but somebody has to ask. And Chris said, well, we've been together, and who's going to ask? And
Figured I had asked.
he figured he had asked,
That was
and
it.
I was like, no, we have to ask. And so we kind of had plans, but we never actually got around to it. So the 2 nights before the wedding, when we got together with his friends, and they were asking us about how we got together and just the kind of stories, they asked who, and we admitted that neither of us had asked the other person. Yeah.
So there was no down on one knee.
So there hadn't been anything, and his friend said, well, you got us all the way out to South Africa, and there's not going to be any wedding because somebody has to ask somebody. So I'm going to turn the story over to Chris at this point, because that was where it was 2 nights before we got married.
It was. And so the day before the wedding, we were running around Cape Town, just like putting little final things together, what we're going to wear at the reception, all this stuff. And in the midst of all that, we had few communication issues, we had a huge fight. Basically had a huge fight. And so we spent so much of the day just being mad at each other, trying to write vows also, because vows had not been written either. So finally, David just said, honey, stop. We're getting married tomorrow. We can't do this. We can't be like this right now. And so we patched it up. We talked about, what happened, and we patched it up. And then it was the perfect moment at that time to then say, then David got down on his knee and he said, honey, I know that I say things that I shouldn't say. I do things I shouldn't do, but would you do me the honor of marrying me anyway tomorrow? So he's crying, I start crying, then I got down on my knees and on my one knee, and I said, I pretty much said the same thing, that I can also be a jerk and stubborn and all the things I am, but would you marry me tomorrow? And so that was our official proposal.
We both said yes.
We both said yes. And then less than 24 hours later, we were married.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was the proposal.
That's amazing. That is really, really amazing. So now that you're married, what does this make available to you?
Well, I know for sure that given that we were married legally in South Africa, that the state of New York will recognize us as a legally married couple. So under, I think, New York law, we are officially married. What all exactly that entails, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if you know more than I do at this point. It's all still new.
Yeah, it's all still new. But I think also part of what's shifted for me and for us, I think, is a sense of acknowledging and recognizing each other's commitment publicly and being acknowledged and recognized. One of the things that happened throughout our time in South Africa was we were treated like a married couple, like a newly married couple. They left us bottles of champagne. They turned down the beds and left rose petals and bathrobes with heart shapes in them all over everywhere. We were introduced as a married couple at all the restaurants we went to, and everywhere we were treated with that excitement that comes with being a newly married couple. And that really made a difference for me, and I think for both of us. And so I think we've carried that over. Even recently we went to visit my sister and at her work, and she introduced us as her brother and his husband.
Oh, I love it.
And so I began to see that this was shifting not just for people in South Africa, but it actually made a difference for the people in our lives here in the States as well.
So, children?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, we've been
Yes.
yes. We've been talking about kids for a long time, for a number of years. But, you know, when we first started talking about actually really getting married, I was telling David how important it was to me that we be married before we have kids, so that our kids can look back and, you know, look through our wedding photos and the videos and whatever, and to see that, you know, my daddy David and my daddy Christopher, they actually got married.
Yeah.
And they made a public commitment to each other. And I feel like I think it'll be an incredible gift for our kids when they come along.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about the ceremony itself.
Oh yeah. So so we didn't have any time. We had like 2 hours when we got to Bushman's Kloof, and we had to rush, and all the people at the resort were laughing because I was ironing our suits and stuff like that. And we had a really quick photo shoot, and then we got in the Range Rover, which is the same ones they used to do the game drives, and we drove out to the place up the ravine where we were getting married. And as we got out, climbed out of the Range Rover, and we looked up into the side of the ravine where it's 80 steps up to the platform where we were actually getting married. And we could see our friends standing at that platform together, and we could see the choir that was the staff of Bushman's Kloof were actually singing for us, and that choir was ready to sing. And we looked up, we grabbed each other's hands, and I remember thinking, oh my God, we didn't have any rehearsal. How do we start? And the choir started singing at that moment, and we began to climb those 80 steps together. And it is something I will never, ever, ever forget.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't even there, and it's making me cry.
Yeah, it was. He kept
unbelievable.
telling me to slow down and not walk too fast up the
Take in the
stairs.
moment.
But it was just breathtaking. And maybe the only other thing that I want to share about that is that while we didn't have our families there, our families they wrote these beautiful letters for us to be read during the ceremony. And so our friends who were there actually stood in their place and read from my father and Christopher's sister their statements to us during the ceremony itself. And it was almost uncanny how much it was like they were really there for us in that moment. So thousands of miles away, our families were there in spirit and through their words.
Well, you all are both such incredible people, and by virtue of who you are on the planet, you make such an incredible contribution to the world. And so I'm going to say thank you so much for inviting me into your home and for sharing this experience with me and with all of the people who are going to be seeing this throughout the world.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julia. It's just been really great.
Thank you. Thank you. Mwah. All right.